Tonight's special guest is Bruce Kendall. Along with his sister Barbara, they put the sport of windsurfing on the map for New Zealand and the world. Bruce is here tonight to tell us what is happening with the future of windsurfing in the Olympic Games. We welcome Bruce Kendall as our special guest on The Beat Goes On.
Bruce Kendall, welcome to The Beat Goes On.
Thank you very much.
Not often we have a sportsman on the program. A sportsman that's been to the Olympics, has 2 medals, and you're a baby boomer, we just discovered before the show started. Born on the 27th of June, 1964. How old would you be now, Bruce?
47. It's interesting, younger people say, 47, like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I just think, well,
and
actually...
we say, wow,
and I
being
think
47.
And I think, well, actually, that's a good age because we've lived and experienced so much. We've had a great time.
Now, you're here today, Bruce, because, of course, that big controversy about board sailing or windsurfing and kite surfing at the Olympics.
It's very disappointing.
How did this all come about?
Well, what happened originally is that ISAF, the International Sailing Federation, had to reduce the amount of medals they were able to deliver at the Olympic Games. And that was something that was told to them by the IOC, the International Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
So they've reduced from 11 medals to 10 medals. So they had to drop a sport. And so they've had to look at all the sailing sports and gone, okay, well, what are our categories? And for some bizarre reason, they ended up putting kite surfing and windsurfing in as the same category. When the vote happened on the 5th of May at the ISAF meeting, they ended up voting windsurfing out and kite surfing in, when in fact all they should have been choosing at that stage was a process, not the result.
A final decision.
And the other thing that happened was that it was a very, very close vote, 19 to 17. And as it transpires, a number of countries have since stood up and said, hey, we made a mistake, we got carried away with the enthusiasm in the room, and actually we were told that we should have been voting for windsurfing and not kite surfing. Sorry, and we'd like to change our result.
And will you be able to make changes? Where is it now?
Once that decision is made, it's pretty hard to change it. There's another meeting happening in November, and if they get a 75% majority wanting to review the situation, which will be difficult, then they have to go through another process of then deciding what was the process and how should they go forward, and then it'll come again down to a 50-50 vote. But I think a lot of people are actually confused about the next Olympic Games coming up in London, thinking that windsurfing won't be there. Well, in fact, windsurfing is in London.
Yeah.
We've got John Paul Tobin right now competing for New Zealand. He's got a very, very good chance of winning a medal. And so this vote actually affects the Olympic Games in Rio.
So it's clouded everything, because I'm glad you've told me that, because everybody thinks, it's this Olympic that there won't be any board sailing.
Yes.
But of course
it would be for 2016.
Well, and it could be changed by then anyway.
Easily.
Yeah.
And then of course for 2020 there's going to be another process. So there's a very, very good chance that if windsurfing isn't in the Olympic Games in 2016, that in the interim it will get voted back in for 2020, and there's a very good chance that kite surfing and windsurfing
will be there as well. So is it a storm in a teacup?
Well, no, it isn't actually. It's this decision was made quite hastily. Due diligence hadn't been done by the people that were making the decisions. Windsurfing is very established. It's got very clear established pathways to go from learning to windsurf right through to the Olympic level. It's got lots of different aspects of the sport. And kite surfing is also developed, but kite surfing's only been around really since around 97 in New Zealand. Windsurfing globally is the second strongest sailing sport. So why on earth would you drop the second strongest sailing sport?
Yeah.
You know.
Now, where were you the day you heard this news? You must have been shocked. What did you feel as an Olympic medalist for windsurfing?
I was actually away on my boat at the time, and I was very aware that that meeting was happening in the time, and I'd been following it as closely as I could. And then the first I heard about it was a telephone call from a radio station saying, "What do you think?" And I was like,
yeah.
"Oh no."
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't really want to respond until I knew as much information as possible.
Well, let's now talk a little bit about Bruce Kendall. What a wonderful career you've had in New Zealand. Let's go back to the beginning. Born in the 27th of June 1964, and they were great times then, back in 64, for a child being brought
Yes.
up in New Zealand. You started off like so many New Zealanders in that little yacht called the P Class.
Yes, well, I actually started sailing really before that. I didn't have
Really?
much of a choice when I was a kid of what sort of sport I was going to do. My parents are very, very keen on yachting, and so they took me away in the boat as soon as I came out of the hospital, pretty much. And I was out in the boat, and actually right before Mum gave birth to me, I was out in the boat. And so I was out in the family yacht, which is, a little 30-footer.
Sailing's in your blood.
Yes, or being on the ocean.
Yes,
It's,
exactly.
and interacting with the ocean and the sea life, the fish, the birds, the whole package.
And we haven't even mentioned the family, of course, Barbara Kendall, your
Yes,
sister.
yes.
So, and there is another.
Sister Wendy in between.
Wendy.
Wendy's living on Waiheke.
Now, was Wendy good at board
Wendy
sailing or
was
windsurfing?
very, very good.
Yes.
In fact, I think she's more of a natural athlete physically than Barbara and myself, but she doesn't like the sensation of competition. And to be honest, I think Barbara and I don't really like the sensation of competition either, but
Your love of the sport is.
but wanting to really push ourselves physically and mentally right to the edge is a
Well,
need to win is in us.
Mum and Dad, they must have been so proud. Two children that medals at the Olympics. They became famous with their children,
Yes,
didn't they?
yes, they did.
How did they react to your fame?
My father and my mother were in business, Kendall Distributing. It was good for them.
Yeah.
It helped promote their business.
What did they distribute?
They were distributing, importing and distributing welding consumables for non-ferrous metals.
Wow.
So in simple terms, when you want to join copper to stainless steel,
Yeah.
one of the best metals to join those two
Yeah.
together is silver. And of course you mix other metals with the silver so that it bonds well.
Now, at what stage, Bruce, did you and Barbara and the family and the community realise that New Zealand was producing world-class windsurfers? When did that realisation dawn on you?
Our first world champion was actually Santa Patel, and she won the Women's World Championships.
So it came into our minds that New Zealanders could do this. That's the key you need, isn't it? That,
Well, actually, for me personally, that wasn't what I needed. All I wanted to do, well, I was sailing, and I knew New Zealanders were good at sailing, and so you can see it's some sort of achievable step.
yes.
I moved away from sailing because I couldn't afford it, and I went windsurfing. It seemed to be more diverse, more fun, and more affordable. So I went windsurfing and became addicted.
Day you won the gold medal, tell us your feelings that day.
I think if we wind back the clock a little bit more to the bronze medal, because I won that in '84.
Yes, that's right.
And before the Olympic Games, the best I'd ever done was 7th overall in the World Championships, which was actually the year before. And so I realised I had a shot at winning a medal. And when I trained for the Olympic Games in '84, I couldn't afford to buy a board, and I borrowed a board from the local windsurfing shop. And I competed against the top Germans for the months leading up to the Olympic Games at the Olympic venue. And I never really realised that my board was a lot heavier than the Germans. And I was getting beaten every day. And it was pretty tough, training by myself, no coach boat. I had Steve Macris from Wellington out there as a training partner for a few weeks before the Olympic Games. But it was very tough emotionally to go out and get beaten every day.
Yeah.
And it was just tough. And then right before the Olympic Games, they handed everybody the Olympic windsurfing equipment. So everybody had exactly the same equipment.
board, yeah.
And then suddenly I realised I was faster than everybody else.
Wow.
And that was really something.
That was a great feeling.
And I know that at the Olympic Games, I was possibly the fastest person around the track. but I didn't have a lot of the racing skills that the Europeans and the Americans had, because they had all the training and the competition circuit and the coaching, the whole thing. So I ended up finishing third at the Olympic Games, and I know that I was good enough to win a gold medal. The very, very last race, I thought I had the silver in my pocket, and I hadn't done my maths properly, and I fell off at one particular moment. I didn't take it seriously enough. I let a couple, because the person I thought I had to beat for the silver was way, way, way back, and in fact that was his worst race, and he discarded that race. If I had done my maths properly, I would have been in much better shape, and I would have had a silver medal. And so I was very angry about that. So leading up to the 88 Olympic Games, I knew that I had every potential to win, and if I didn't win the gold medal, I'd be disappointed. My attitude to each race was that if somebody was to pass me in a race, it was the same as them murdering me. And that makes you try pretty hard if you think that your very life is at stake. And as a result, that I didn't have to sail the last race. I had so many points accumulated that going into the last race, in fact, there were 6 people that could have won the silver medal.
What is it about winning? Just we haven't got much time left, Bruce, but I want to tell you, what is it about winning that drives you onwards?
I think for most people that are winners, the reason they're winners is actually because they hate to lose more than everybody else.
And you feel that when you lose?
Yes, and so we'll feel a stronger emotion, and we are prepared to do what most people are not prepared to do to win.
Now, you're here today also because I met you through Kennedy Garland, our wonderful natural health expert.
Yes.
Kennedy comes on the program, and you're interested in continuing to win, and of course you have discovered Lipronol.
My family and I are all taking Lipronol. It's on the advice of my cousin Ian Warbridge, who's a doctor in Rotorua. As we get older, our joints age, and our ligaments and all our joints start to find it more difficult to move the same way. And of course, omega-3 oils are the new discovery for helping lubricate all the joints and help tissue repair. Lipronol is by far the most powerful omega-3 oil available on the planet.
Bruce, we could go on for hours. I've really enjoyed this talk, and you know, it's not my area of board sailing, but you've made it fascinating. So we're going to have to finish, unfortunately, because the clock's ticking.
Sure.
But I want to say, Bruce Kendall, thank you for being a great sportsman for our country.
Thank you.
Without you, we would have far less medals. So thank you. Thanks for coming on The Beat Goes On today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.